It's thinking.
It says live in the upper left-hand.
Hello and welcome to episode number 5 of the Six Flags Great American Junkies podcast. I am your host, Bob Bendorf, and I've actually got guests with us this episode for the first time. I'm sure you guys listened 4 episodes through and are probably tired of just hearing me talk. So I brought some very talkative individuals with me. We've got Sarah, who's my co-admin in the Junkies page. We've got Steven from ThrillMax, whose mic is muted, by the way. And we've got the Coaster Llama himself, Kyle.
Hello.
Hello, how's everybody doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for volunteering your time this evening to kind of talk everything St. Louis. And that's the whole point of this episode, is to kind of talk St. Louis. And Sarah was a first-time visitor to the park. I know, Steven, it used to be your home park, and Kyle, it is your home park, but you seem to spend more time at Six Flags Great America. Anyway, so I figured bring in some experts. I have not been to Six Flags St. Louis since probably I was about 6 years old, so I really can't contribute much to the conversation on that, so I've got you guys there. I do want to start right away with kind of some, I don't want to call it breaking news, but it's news that came out today, is the park actually announced a reduction in hours. Okay, so that is kind of the latest thing. I know that they're now going to be closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then Wednesday through Thursday open till 6, and Friday and Saturday till 8 o'clock. So Sundays till 6 as well. So also, I know some of the other parks today also announced a reduction in hours. I know, Sarah, you had one?
Frontier City announced they reduced their hours, and they're going to be closed, I believe it's Tuesday and Wednesday, or Wednesday and Thursday. It's a different set of days, so they must be poring over that attendance data and figuring out which days they can cut.
Okay, I also seen that Six Flags over Georgia announced they're going to have a reduction in hours, and I'm just looking over at my notes here on what I have on that. They are going to be closed on Thursdays. Sunday through Wednesday, they're going to be 12 to 6, and Friday and Saturday, 12 to 8. Six Flags Whitewater is going to be closed on Wednesdays, and Six Flags America, not to be confused with Six Flags Great America, is going to be closed on Mondays.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is just the first round of parks with a reduction, if we're going to eventually hear something come out of Texas or New Jersey.
Well, that's what I'm looking at right now. I have not seen anything out of Texas yet, and New Jersey just opened. So they probably don't even have the data for it yet. But it's really interesting for St. Louis, because I did happen to go on a Monday night, and that was a great time to go. There was no one in that park.
It was interesting. We went on a Monday also, which was opening the Monday that they first opened, and the attendance was below their capacity. At no point did they ever reach their cutoff point, so it was relatively quiet. I do know that their hours, it doesn't surprise me that they shortened their hours. The other 2 parks that we went to before St. Louis, which were Georgia and Frontier City, had shorter hours from the get-go than St. Louis did. So it does not surprise me that St. Louis decided to shorten their operating hours.
And if they shorten their hours, they can get employees in one shift, which is also really helpful just for health and safety for everyone.
So do we think the shift is more of a lower attendance, or do you think it's a staffing issue? What do we think about that?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both.
I think it's over, they're working in really lean times right now. They need to make sure that they're as profitable as they can. You can pay one shift of employees. You only have to schedule one shift. And why run the park if you're running the park at a loss on a Monday or Tuesday? If it looks like that's the day that no one shows up to St. Louis, you can't do it because that eats into whatever you're making on those other days.
Right. If you're not getting the people coming out that you allowed space for, there's no point in trying to stay open all of those days. You can condense hopefully the same number of guests into fewer days and maximize your staffing capacity. So.
Yeah,
Right.
and also one thing that struck me, so I haven't been to St. Louis yet this season. I'm actually going there on the 18th, but I just got back from Georgia this past weekend. One thing that struck me was, even if the park isn't very busy, they, just because of the way they have to social distance on the rides and stuff, they still have to run most rides with all of the trains they can. And so from a maintenance standpoint, they don't have the option to just go to one train ops. So they're constantly burning their highest maintenance costs because they're constantly running all their trains that they can. So just in that, if they can cut some maintenance costs down and they're not running those rides a couple of days, that saves a lot, over the course of a few months. Just the wheels, just that costs so much money just to put wheels on the train. So,
and it could have to do with who's coming too, the type of ticket that's walking in. If Mondays and Tuesdays are when all they're seeing season passes and members, that they need the people with the tickets. So that can run. If all you have are season passes and members, you're running at a loss because they're going to come in and eat your food and not spend very much.
Yeah, especially like people like me that's Diamond Elite, and we get 50% off too. So even when we're buying merch, which I did at Georgia, I bought a few shirts. I think I bought 4 or 5 shirts down at Georgia, and you walk away $40-$50. What's their profit really on those shirts? A couple of bucks a piece?
I mean, they're still making money on it. You got to put in the labor costs. I mean, I went down there. I probably spent about $125 just stocking up on the masks. I thought they were cool, and shirts. So I mean, I think I honestly buy more as a Diamond Elite member than before I was, because I'm like, oh, it's 50% off. Whatever. What's another $10?
Oh, for sure. And now it's really cool because Diamond Elite, getting those triple points, that was really cool to leave Georgia. It worked on the merchandise I bought. I think it did. It seemed like it, because when I spent about $22 for 2 shirts, it was giving me 600-700 points, somewhere around there. I feel like that's more than usual. I don't really have any data for that because I don't know.
It's 25 points per dollar, so it should be 75 per dollar. I got no points for any of my purchases at St. Louis, so I have an email in.
Oh, now
I was very sad. I should have gotten 10,000.
I noticed with the, like when you go to it says you visited a distant park. Mine still says 100 points for those. And
mine too.
If it's triple points, we should get 300 points for visiting.
When I went to Frontier City, I'm looking at it right now. I got 300 points for Frontier City. I got 300 points for Georgia. And then the stuff that I bought, I got 150 for St. Louis because that's my home park. And the stuff that I bought, I spent $3.70 for a face mask and got 225 points. I did not get
you
credit
did not
for
get
my
triple points on your purchase then. Oh no, you did 75 per dollar. Yeah.
$3.70. Yes.
Yeah.
But I did not. It does not even. It's not even showing my purchase at Georgia.
Yeah. See, it doesn't show mine for St. Louis either. So I did put something in, and I have my receipts, and I calculated for them exactly how many points they owe me, and I figured that was the easiest way to say, hey, just let me know where you're going to put them back on in my account.
Yeah, because I'm looking now, and I'm realizing now that you guys are saying that I didn't get triple points because I spent $1.58 at the Jelly Belly down there, and I got 25 points.
Yeah, you should have 150. Or no, you should have 20. You'll have 75 because they don't They don't give
Right.
you the other.
So
Sorry.
if you apply
I've been
that
doing
metric,
teachers all day.
I'm just using that as like the metric right now, like because that's $1, right? $1.38. So if you apply that through everything, I don't think I got the point. So
No.
I'll be sending an email too.
So we can get back to St. Louis.
Back
they
to
have
St.
other
Louis.
news today, right?
They do have other news today. Effective, I guess, immediately or per when that email went out, is every bench in the park has been made a mask-free zone. So, as long as you can find a seat, you can pop that mask off.
Which isn't hard down there. They have moved. I have noticed that they've spaced out the benches. So you're not going to be sitting next to another family, and the expectation is you don't go sit by somebody that you're not with. It is so hot down there. And I'm hoping when they do that, they can enforce the masks more on the midways and in the queues than they were. That's kind of a happy medium because the mask relief areas were kind of hard to find anyway.
So,
Yeah.
since you guys have all been at the parks, how is it with the mask on? What's your opinions on wearing a mask?
It's not, you get used to it. You definitely do need some time to take it off, and it feels good when you take it off. But I went with a cooling gaiter and kept it pretty cool and a mask, and I didn't have a problem with either one.
We were there all day. I was there with my 10-year-old daughter, and granted, it was a little earlier than when this more heat wave hit us because it was opening day. But we had no problem keeping the masks on all day. We didn't, at any point, we didn't go to a mask cooling zone and take them off. And we took them off to eat, which gave us a break from them. But we did not ever feel the need to take it off just to get a break from the heat or from the mask, because it wasn't that bad when we were there.
It starts to feel weird when you don't have one on. Like, to me, when I didn't have it, I'm like, this feels really weird.
I mean, I posted in the Junkies group about my experience with the masks on opening day, and as some others have pointed out, it started out strong. But I did make the observation when we got there, you could not walk 10 feet in that park without seeing a director or a manager. I mean, the upper level management was everywhere. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you couldn't find a supervisor or above to save your life. I don't know if they ended up all going into a meeting to talk about what they'd observed in the morning, or if what was going on, but you couldn't find it. And at that point, the enforcement started going way down.
And I think it's really hard because you've got 16 and 17-year-old kids. Like, my kids were on, what is that, Crazanity? Is that right? Somebody walked on holding, one person didn't have a mask, and one person holding a mask in his hand. And it's a 16-year-old girl. So she didn't feel comfortable telling them to put it on. They ran this ride, and, thankfully that's one that faces outward. So, and there was distance on it, but it's hard. They need to empower their employees, and they need to be more consistent. And I've heard from several people that it's not consistent yet.
And I think, go ahead, Steve.
I was gonna say, so what I saw at Georgia this weekend was there was a lot of people walking around that were pulling their masks down the whole day. I mean, I couldn't go. You were just saying you couldn't go 10 feet, Kyle, without seeing a manager. I couldn't go 10 feet without seeing somebody not applying playing by the rules, right? They were all pulling their masks down. I will say this, security was on it. When they saw someone, and they weren't mean about it, they would just look at you and they would just motion, right? And every time they'd say, we know it's hot. We know it's hot, you got to put the mask up. And even on, so they have a ride similar to our Revolution, right? Down in Georgia, it's bigger. That ride, they were the strictest on that ride. When you crossed the gate from the queue into the ride area, you couldn't do it without your mask up, and they would not start the ride until every mask was up. And if you took your mask down during the ride, they would e-stop the ride. They would
Oh,
stop
wow.
the ride and tell you you're going to be like, we have to walk you away from this ride. They wouldn't like necessarily eject you from the park, but they were kicking people off the ride and saying, can't do this. I only saw it happen once, but they kept saying, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And after that first time, everybody kept their mask up, except the ride ops when they were in the booth. If you look at the video that I just posted, you'll see a section where I filmed them cleaning the rides. In the booth, they were taking their masks off, so that was interesting to see the employees kind of doing it, and then seeing the guests then being told you have to put them up. That was a little dichotomy that was going on there that I saw.
Yeah, I saw the video you're talking about, Stephen. Two things actually stood out in that one. One, the ride attendant that was kind of working the gate, he was wearing the mask improperly. He had it underneath his nose.
Yep.
And then he goes and walks into the control panel room, that little room, and the attendant in there, she had the mask on her chin. And that mask, and the employee that walked in, he pulled his mask down, so they were talking probably about 3 feet from each other with no mask on, over a control panel that multiple people are going to be using throughout the day.
While yelling at the guests that we're going to e-stop the ride and eject you from this ride if you don't have your masks on. So that was, I don't know how, I haven't heard anything like that at St. Louis. You guys can tell me if you saw anything like that, but
E-stopping?
no, just with them saying we're not going to start the ride or you have to have them on.
Mr. Freeze was very strict on the masks. I didn't observe it anywhere else. In fact, there were a lot of, even, I know Kyle mentioned it, I observed it too, employees that were under the impression that the masks come off for all the rides.
Yeah, when we were there,
I think there's a training issue.
When we were there on day one on both the Boss and American Thunder, they were announcing that you could take the mask off during the ride and then put it back on when you pulled back into the station.
I suspect on those rides, part of that might to do with just the roughness of the ride. Like, you might actually lose your mask, not even because it's going super fast or anything, just because it's kind of rough, and it kind of shakes you around a little bit. Maybe they were saying that. I don't know. That's interesting though, because I know at Georgia, a lot of the other rides, I specifically mentioned that pendulum ride because that's the one I noticed it on. Every other ride, I saw everybody, once you got out of the station, everybody was pulling their mask down underneath their chins. And nobody said anything to them. As a matter of fact, people were coming back in the station with them down, and then they would I guess they were afraid they were going to get in trouble or something, so everyone would put their mask up real quick as they were coming in the station. Nobody said anything to them about it.
I do know
Go ahead.
I do know they've been pretty strict about photos. Like, you can't get a ride photo if your mask has come down.
Oh, well, that makes sense. They just don't want other people. I think that's they don't want you to show other people, and then other people think, oh, they're not even making you wear, just for publicity, make sure you got the mask on. Hey, that's cool. I see that comment. Orion, Gary? That's really cool, Gary.
91 miles an hour. Yeah.
Although I am hoping that Orion is much smoother than the Boss and American Thunder.
Yeah. If it's not, there's a problem.
If it's not, it would be called deja vu.
Okay, so along the COVID lines, obviously there's a new procedure for getting into the park, new temperature screening, sort of new, they're not searching bags anymore. How'd that process go for everybody?
I have said repeatedly that I'm sorry it took COVID to make this happen. I wish they had installed this level of screening earlier. The temperatures, there are no bag checks. The temperatures and the scanning are all straight walk-through. You don't have to slow down. You don't do anything special other than take your hat off for the temperature screening. You just walk through. If you set off any kind of signal, they politely pull you to the side, and they do whatever they need to do, whether it's a wand scan or whatever, to check the problem spots. But I didn't see that happening very often. There was no backup. I mean, it was beautiful. I wish they had done this a long time ago.
I have seen that with higher capacity, that there have been some issues with it because there is only one way in, and I think New Jersey has 2 lines going in, and we're dealing with some lower capacity numbers. But I did see some alarming switchbacks in New Jersey in some videos. But I will say in St. Louis, it's a breeze. Your preferred parking's right there. So you get out of your car, you walk just a few hundred feet, and you're in the park.
And I'm not sure, I have not been to Great Adventure yet, but from conversations that I've had with people that went this year, there was a lot of things going wrong. So I don't know for a fact that we can blame the capacity on the backup at the screening or the screening system itself, because there were issues across the board with almost everything at Great Adventure. The first few days from the people that I've talked to that have been there.
And if we're talking about being in leaner times, I know that it costs them more money, but it's less manpower. So I think of all the times that I've waited for somebody who has a whole bunch of bags and they have to go through everything. It's so much faster. That part alone is really pleasant.
I see Christina made the comment that it was quick and easy, almost too easy. And I will say that I had some questions. I did talk to one of the medical screeners at the temperature tent at the end of the day. And I asked him if they were having to refuse people or if they were having to pull a bunch of people aside. And they had scanned less than 3,000 people for the whole day. It was something, I think he said it was something like 2,200 people for the whole day. And they only had to pull 2 people aside to do an additional temperature check, and they both passed. So it does make me wonder if people are just being really good and not coming to the park when they have a fever, or if maybe the system is a little bit lenient on the temperatures. I have no idea, but it just, statistically, it seems like there would be more than 2 people out of 2,200 that would register high on the temperature scan. But I don't know, it's just supposition on my part.
I have heard that they're not meant to have, they haven't, I noticed that we walked like 3 across when we walked in, and I've heard that they are not meant to have more than 1 registered at a time. So that is very possible that they haven't, I can't vouch for what they're meant for or not.
Right.
Just because the internet says so.
Yeah.
But if that's happening, that's possible as well, that it's not registering somebody.
I had a long conversation with the guys that made the scanners, the security scanners, because they had reps there for opening day at each of the parks. And we were talking to them while we were there, but they did not make the temperature scanners, so I couldn't ask those questions with them.
So what they say about the security scanners?
It was interesting. They're getting a great response from it. There are, according to them, there's the expected number of people that are getting pulled aside, but it's being handled. As I said, when I was watching, every now and then they'd have to have somebody step aside, and they have the wand and the screen. I don't know if you've ever seen it at an airport where it highlights the problem areas, and then they have to come over and wand you in that particular problem area or pat you down in the case of the airport. It was the same type of thing. They were just checking the problem areas, and even for the few people that it was dinging, it still went very quickly. So the feedback I got from them on how their system was working and the number of people that it was pulling out, it seemed to be in line with what they would expect from past history with screeners like this. So,
yeah, I got my hand slightly slapped in Georgia walking in because Thermax. I'm trying to film. I'm trying to, especially COVID stuff. I'm trying to film everything. So they let me film walking through like normally through the scanners. But then I turned around and tried to get like footage of the screen, right? To like show, because I want to show people like, look. And they were like, oh, HIPAA, you can't do that. Because it's showing a person with their body temperature. And I guess that I didn't even think about that. But what I saw, for those of you watching who haven't been to a park or don't know what we're talking about, it's a person that sits at a screen and they're looking at a big screen, and you walk through a vestibule, and basically you just keep walking. But what it looks like to them it just shows like a video of everyone walking through, just like you're seeing now on the stream. The only difference is above your head in white numbers, it would show your temperature. And I was watching groups of people come through this. Like, you'd have 6-7 people come through in one group, and then right behind them was 3 or 4 people coming through. Now, they were distanced enough. They weren't right on top of each other. But on screen, because, that vestibule was probably 12 feet big, 12 feet, somewhere around there, you could have 2 different groups in there. So on screen, we're looking at about a dozen people sometimes on that screen, and it just flawlessly.
Does it hit all of them?
Oh, every single person had a temperature over their head the entire time when I was there, and that's what I was trying to get I was trying to get film of that so people could see, like, this is how safe it is. They can see multiple people that come through. It wasn't glitching. I sat there and watched it for a few minutes. It wasn't glitching. It wasn't like some people weren't registering. It was registering flawlessly. And that was, I watched that on 4th of July is when I did that. So that would have been the biggest crowd for the weekend. And it was so fast to get through there. And I even said when I got the pleasure of meeting the park while I was at the park both days, and we talked about it. And I said, we're all asking ourselves in our groups, what's going to stay after COVID? And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, those bagless searches, that's not going away. He said, oh no, we love those bagless searches. and he said, other things like the mobile ordering that I know at our home park, Great America and St. Louis, they've been saying it's coming for like 2 seasons now. So the mobile ordering was there.
We should talk about that.
Yeah, no, we should talk about that. Great. Okay, I didn't even mean to segue into this.
Good transition.
This is
Good segue. Great segue.
So here's my experience with mobile dining. First of all, love it. I just wish that they would explain it a little better. Like, the first thing was my mobile app worked flawlessly. My buddy, who was sitting right next to me, were both sitting in the park right outside of a restaurant. And his app is saying, you're not even in the park. You have to be in the park to order. He's like, I'm sitting right here. So that was one thing that maybe...
That was our experience. We have 2 iPhones on the same plan, and my daughter's iPhone is actually a nicer one than mine. Hers couldn't get a signal the whole time on the Wi-Fi, and mine could.
Yeah, so that was one issue that we saw. But once we got... The other thing that they didn't explain, when I pulled up when I was going to order food, it tells you when you go through, like, you pick out, it shows you what restaurant.
I know what you're going to say now, yeah.
I thought that they gypped me, but anyway, okay, so yeah, what happened was, so I'm ordering food from this restaurant. You pick out what you want. It shows you, just like the menu, what's on the meal plan, what's on the snack. It's labeled with the same logos. So I pick out, chicken basket and, chicken tender basket and whatever. And the free refills, by the way, love the refills because they were giving out like huge 32-ounce drinks, which was more liquid in the cup they were giving me than what my member cup could hold. So I was able to fill up the member cup and still like walk around and have like more. I thought it was great. I loved that. But then it says at the bottom, because it'll automatically apply any discounts you have and all that stuff. But then at the bottom, it'll say apply season dining if you have it.
But I found that I had to refresh it before I even got that, because at first it kept giving me a total. So my experience in St. Louis is I would get this total and be like, why do I owe money? And I had to like actually refresh the app by pulling it down, and then I got that.
Oh, okay. Applied. Okay. But yeah, I thought the same thing. The first thing I thought was, whoa, wait a minute. Why am I being charged for the food? Okay, I shouldn't be charged. But then I clicked apply the dining. Now this was lunchtime. Then it tells me at the top how many snacks and dining you have left. But it, credits to use, and it only said 1 meal and 1 snack. And I said, this is lunch. I should have 2 meals and
But
snack.
I think it never showed up like that even in the old system. Like even on the receipt, your dinner credit doesn't show up until the dinner time period.
And they didn't explain that. So I
Okay.
literally like went, found the manager, like, hey, what's going on? Because before that, I tried to buy a photo pass and my 50% discount wasn't working. So I thought, okay, something's messed up with my plan. And then they had to take the time to go, no, it's lunchtime. They're only showing you one credit because it's lunchtime. When dinner comes, like you're saying, it'll apply, it'll show you have another dinner credit. So I wish that they would have just kind of explained some things a little bit better on there. It was kind of trial by fire. And I wish it wasn't so glitchy with, are you in the park? Are you out of the park? Can you order from this place? Those are the two things with dining I noticed.
Yeah. I noticed that I did note, I went to, it's Primo's there for pizza, and they have a separate unit for mobile ordering, and they're still getting used to looking at that. So they almost have to have one, when they have their expediters who are putting their orders together, they almost have to have an extra person now for it, and they don't yet. So I did run into problems waiting, but when I was at Primo's, I was really happy to wait because the supervisor took the time then to train the employee. Oh, I have you working on packing up pizzas because they're all packed in individual packages right now. He's like, but you have to, every couple boxes, you have to come over and look at your screen to see if somebody has dining. And I just love if people are going to stop and train, I'm happy with that every time.
Yeah,
whereas
for sure.
I was at Foul Ball, and the poor supervisor had to keep running back and actually make the food because he asked we just had a plain hot dog, and first we got a chili dog, then she makes a corn dog, then she makes another chili dog, and he's like, I'm just gonna go back and make it. So there was some kind of breakdown there, and I felt so bad, but he was so nice and so apologetic.
We ran into what you were talking about at Chopsticks, and the Chopsticks there is an indoor one that it was a Panda Express, so it's set up exactly like most Panda Expresses are set up, where you have the buffet line almost, and they're dishing out what you want as you walk down the line, and then the person at the end gets you the drinks. Well, they had the one screen down at the end that people were looking at and then making the orders for the mobile ordering. But if you did the refill only trick to try to get your refill expedited, that didn't show up on the main screen. That only showed up on a separate screen that was down by the register. And so if the person running the register isn't regularly turning around and looking at that screen to see if there are any drink-only orders, the drinks never get made. And I think, like you said, it's just a matter of training the person who's responsible for checking that to get into a pattern where every time they do this action twice, they turn around and look at that screen to make sure nothing's going on.
They have to get into a rhythm. I will say, so JB's has been getting a lot of flack for their mobile order process. It's pretty much for the food, it's pretty much whoever gets their elbows to the front first, it states their order, gets their food. There's definitely a breakdown there. However, I did order drinks only quite a few times, and they have a designated drink person there. And each time by the time I walked into the restaurant, he had stopped his other drink orders and mine were poured and ready to go. So that one was actually working well. I know others have not had that experience, but maybe because they had a designated refill person, and at that time the line was going out the door for drinks. So I was very thankful to go to the front of the line and get something cold to drink.
We didn't do JB's, but Johnny Rockets was a complete mess as far as combining the mobile orders with the regular orders and how the employees were handling it. It was definitely not a good setup, but again, it was the first day. So yeah. I would hope that by now they'd worked out some of those kinks.
I think they're going to have to completely, just from an operational standpoint, they're going to have to completely look at redefine the different positions within those restaurants, because they're used to having their cashier and their expediter and their cooks. And if they have another person, maybe they have an extra cashier, but they actually need someone on mobile order. They need a designated drink person now that there's no self-service. So it's just, a matter of where security doesn't need as many positions. now because of the way you get in. It's all kind of shifted to culinary.
Now, I guess I'm used to the system at Great America at the Johnny Rockets, where you place your order and then you go sit down or you walk away and then they call you up when it's ready. At St. Louis, and I've been told by other people, we don't normally go to Johnny Rockets. I've been told by other people that is the norm at St. Louis. But you go up to the register, you order, and then you stand there and you wait until your food is made, and they don't take any other orders until you get your order fulfilled. So I got through the line relatively quickly, but then when I was next in line for 15 minutes as the 3 employees were all waiting for the food to be made for the 3 customers that they each had at their register. So that was where the mess was there, because they'd stop and they'd get a mobile order, and then they'd take that over to the mobile order area and call it out. But the people who were ordering at the register were just not getting their food, and they weren't taking any more orders until the food was delivered.
And I wonder why they can't do the buzzers like they do at JB's, maybe because JB's is a leasee. Other thing to say about mobile ordering, just a heads up, I have picky eaters that come with me, you can't customize anything in the mobile order. It is how it comes. So I know that I have kids that like to get, we go El Macho Nacho. If you are somebody who doesn't want you don't want sour cream on it, you're going to have to wait in line and order it because you can't get it without certain ingredients.
Yeah, did you guys see any options, any substitutions? Like, I know at our park, for me, like being, I'm diabetic, so I don't like to eat fries and stuff like that, just all the carbs. It's not good for me. And if I'm going to eat a sandwich, I'm already having the carbs spread. I don't want to load up on them. So at our park, we can do fruit.
I did see that at Primo's. When there's a choice, so like Primo's, you can have a side salad or breadsticks. And I think I did see the choice where I had to select pizza and then select my side. But as far as like customizing a certain, having an ingredient not on your food, I didn't see an option to customize in the app.
Now, that is strange, because when we ordered, my daughter eats the burgers, and there was a customize button for the burger.
Oh.
And then you could select which ingredients you wanted or did. I want to say I saw the customize option on most of the orders that we made. So I wonder if it's specific to the items that you choose, that there's some that are customizable, or it's maybe specific to the location.
That could be too.
But we did in both Georgia and St. Louis, we had customized options. After we ordered it, you had to order it and then go past the spot where you pick your item, and then there was a separate button to hit to customize your order.
I'll have to look for it, because we were trying to get. Sometimes I have one who just wants French fries, and we just order, chooses, and you can't exchange. Like if you had a lunch that you wanted to use on a snack item, I don't think that works in the app, although I didn't really try it. But she just wants a basket of fries for her dinner, so we tend to order the loaded fries with no ingredients. But that didn't work for us.
Someone is happy to see our faces, but I don't know who, because I didn't register. But
we can't see your face, sorry.
We can't see your face.
Your comment.
Yes, we're happy for your comment. Thank you.
I will say one thing that I did do. So I went to, in Georgia, they have a place called Miners Cookhouse, and it's basically just kind of like a JB's with limited options. That's what I would say. It's like pulled pork sandwiches and burgers, and that's about it. Okay, so they don't have the nachos or anything. But when I went there, I just went to the mobile order window and said, "Hey, I just put in an order for 2 pulled pork sandwiches. Hey, I'm diabetic. Can one of those, do you have anything else you could put in the box instead of fries?" And we got creative. I said, "Do you have a side salad or something?" They said, "No." I said, "Do you have lettuce and tomato for your burgers?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "Can you just put a makeshift little salad, just put a few pieces of lettuce and some tomatoes in there and give me a little ranch packet?"
You're working my secret menu.
But they did it. And then, there was a manager coming by who saw it and was like, hey, that's a neat idea. And I said, yeah. I said, you might want to keep that in mind. If someone asks, is there a substitution? Say, we can do a little makeshift salad on the side if you want. I said, just because people like me with diabetes and stuff, or just somebody who just doesn't want the carbs. Sometimes you just want to have some veggies, So that was really cool that even though I put in a mobile order, I was able to go up and tweak it, and they worked with me. They were super nice about working with me.
I will say, the Johnny Rockets situation, I was just trying to get drinks at the counter. Other than that, as far as getting food and mobile ordering, we had no issues. We used the mobile ordering in Texas before the coronavirus hit because it was operating in February when we went there. We used the mobile ordering in Georgia. We used the mobile ordering in St. Louis. We also got stuff in person at all of those places and never had any problems. Like I said, other than waiting forever for a drink refill at Johnny Rockets, we didn't have any issues. The mobile ordering worked smoothly, seamlessly. We just walked up. It would be nice for those of you who haven't used it before. You can place the order before you get to the restaurant, but they won't start making the food until the app registers that you're there and you press the button that says, go ahead and prepare my food, I'm here. So you can't order your food 10 minutes ahead of time and then walk to the restaurant and have it ready when you get there. Be aware of that. But other than having to wait 5 to 10 minutes for them to make the food and bring it to the delivery window, everything was seamless.
And there weren't a lot of people using it yet, at least in St. Louis, which I think made it a lot better. I would look at people waiting in line. I'm like, why are you fools waiting in line? Just mobile order. But I do think that being able to have it ready would be nice because you get there and it doesn't register until you really get to the door.
And why stop with mobile ordering? My thought with this was shopping. Wouldn't it be awesome if you could just go in there, you see the shirts, you pick out the shirt you want to buy, you buy it in the mobile app, they put it in a bag, they have it waiting for you at the front gate when you leave. That way you don't even have
great idea.
You don't even have to go into the stores. You could literally just pick up your bag, contactless, payment, all that stuff right in your app. I thought, where's shopping? Why can't I do mobile shopping?
I actually see games done that way. Games credits and games passes. If they're not quite ready for shopping, because even with mobile ordering, if you aren't a pass holder member with a dining pass, there is an option for you to save your card. So if you're comfortable with that, there's no reason why I can't go shopping. Now, I use Apple Pay anyway, so I'm contactless anyway, which is nice. But the games would be really nice to have on there and to have they could even incentivize certain credits. They could have a lot of fun with their game program because, we're spoiled up at Six Flags Great America with the amount of games vouchers that we've been able to get. We don't know if that's still going to be a thing. But that was the one reason that we didn't play games down in St. Louis is you could buy the little coupon book that we used to have, the Play Pass, but otherwise it was a cash transaction, and I just don't have cash with me. So
speaking on the contactless side that Stephen brought up and the cash that you mentioned, Sarah, that was one of the things that they advertised in their safety plan was going cashless in the park and as
reverse
contactless
ATMs.
as possible. Yeah, I remember the reverse ATMs. They make a big deal about how you can't pay for parking at the gate. You have to pay for your parking in advance. But I know at all 3 parks that we went to, we witnessed people paying cash for their parking at the gate. So
they
I know
have not gone cashless.
Yeah, that was not something that they actually have followed through on yet.
But they could also, I think the last thing that would really strengthen that mobile app is, how they give you sometimes I don't know what they call them now. Back in the day, we used to call them Bugs Bucks, like the Six Flags Bucks, the Bugs Bunny Bucks.
Yeah.
Put it into your app so you could spend it in your app if you want. You could, if you want to order an extra snack or something or whatever you want to do with it, you could spend your Six Flags bucks there, and you don't have to have the vouchers to give somebody.
It's going to start feeling very Magic Band.
I would say, do any of the Six Flags parks still do the wristband? Because there was a time at least some of the Six Flags where you could get a wristband for your kids that either had money on it already or was hooked into a credit card, and they could spend that it was like instead of giving your kids $50 to go around, you bought them a wristband with $20 or $50 on it, and they could spend off their wristband throughout the day.
They did it a lot in the water park because, and they did it a lot at St. Louis. They did because this has probably been, whew, you guys are giving me flashbacks here. This is like flashbacks like 15 years ago, 10 years ago, easily 15 years ago. But yeah, it was just a little, I don't want to say paper. It was like a little plastic wristband that you would get, like a concert band or like a nightclub band that you'd get. And it just had a barcode on it. And you'd hand them the money, they'd scan it into their system, load whatever money you had, and then when you went up to registers and stuff, you would just let them scan your band, and it would just take the money off the band if you had money on there. And they were waterproof.
ATM.
Exactly, and they were waterproof, so you could go on the water slides, all the water rides. If you sweat, didn't bother it. Now that we're talking about it, that's perfect for COVID right now. Like if instead of cash, to put if you don't have the mobile app, or you don't have, I don't know who doesn't have a cell phone, but if you don't have a cell phone or smartphone, some people still have flip phones. That would be a great solution for them, is to give them a band that they can scan throughout the park all day.
Yeah,
Great idea.
Six Flags, if you're listening to us, we got some ideas, man. All that we ask for is that you mention the Junkies whenever you put these plans into action. Okay.
Speaking of food, since we've been talking food, we've been talking mobile ordering, are there any unique food options to St. Louis that we don't have at Great America?
Tater tots, not unique, but they had. I feel like every restaurant had a different potato item, whereas they're like, one has waffle fries and one has straight fries, one has tater tots. JB's has these little wedge things, but I didn't really look for unique items, but they definitely had a different theme. It wasn't a different potato, different starch in each one.
So there's I don't know if I can say these are unique because other parks have this, but unique with your dining plan at St. Louis. There's two things come to mind. Two things I always have to get. One is their pulled pork sandwich. It's the same pulled pork you get at any Six Flags park, except because you're in the South, they do it the right way and they put coleslaw on the sandwich like you were supposed to do, people. So I love that because they actually they make that Southern barbecue experience. But the hands down, every time I go, I only get one snack when I go. I just said I'm diabetic, guys. Listen,
I know what you're gonna say.
We all know
I
what's
cut
coming.
carbs everywhere else so I can get this snack. But at the front of the park, there's a place called First Cone, and the reason it's called First Cone is because back in the 1904 World's Fair, the first waffle cone was invented. There was an ice cream stand. The guy ran out of cups. Next to him was a guy making waffles. He literally grabbed waffles, rolled them up, and just started stuffing the waffles with ice cream. That was the world's first waffle cones that happened in St. Louis. They call their shop First Cone. And you can get like a triple scoop, huge ice cream cone. I know, I'm bad diabetic.
And they make their waffle cones there. So
and they make them in house.
But be advised that the lines get crazy.
We didn't ever have a line when we were down there, and we went on a Sunday and a Monday. Of course, the kids wanted that both times. And you're just drawn in by the smell of the fresh waffle cones. Yep. We didn't even see it. We were in the store next to it. We just smelled it. We just followed the smell and found it. But we didn't have a line. But we have heard it is set up for quite a line.
But it's interesting because at our park, I'm sorry, at Great America, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we got pineapple at the end of the season, but it's like vanilla. Like that's for the most part. That's what most shops have.
We have a couple flavors. For soft serve, we have vanilla, but if you go into Hurricane Harbor or that place in Southwest,
Five Below.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
We have, but they were always out of different flavors, and I think my daughter she was dying for the mango, but you get like a little cup with a little scoop. First, St. Louis like loads you up.
Yeah, and it's cool to see like different flavors and to see like it's the hard scoop ice cream, and those people are. It's just, it brings you back in time, man. I love it. That is always my snack. I will cut all my carbs. I will even eat sandwiches, no bread. I'll eat salads. I'll do anything I can so I can cheat that one time and get that ice cream cone. And then usually it's on the way out of the park, because usually I throw some of the keys. I go in my little diabetic coma for the ride home, and I'm just snug as a bug in a rug in
They
my
had
car.
a sugar-free vanilla. I noticed a sugar-free vanilla when I was there.
Stop. I'm getting cookie dough and mint chocolate. Stop.
And I'm assuming this is all a snack and there's no upcharge, whereas,
No.
at Great America, we'd probably have some upcharge for something there.
Now, we did one day share a funnel cake down there, and their funnel cake, I was like, oh, we're gonna live supreme. We'll pay. I noticed it was $1 upcharge. They don't have funnel cake sundaes down there.
No.
That is
No.
You'll get it covered in like Oreo and whipped cream, but I'm like, where's the ice cream? So you have to get your ice cream from First Cone.
They do have, here's two, I just thought about this. They do have, I think I've seen this at one other Six Flags park. If you go to JV's, you can get these mac and cheeses, right? These little tins of mac and cheese. And they will put, well, first of all, you can get just a little cup of mac and cheese as a snack. That's really neat. But then you can get mac and cheese that's got either pulled pork on top and you drizzle some barbecue sauce on top. If you've never had that, guys, pulled pork with barbecue sauce is amazing in mac and cheese. And then they do like a buffalo chicken one as well, where they cut up chicken tenders and put some buffalo sauce. So just really cool. That I think that's an upcharge. I think it's like $2 upcharge for that. But that's really neat to see, because sadly, I think Great America, we got rid of our mac and cheese. We had like one location where they had the mac and cheese cone, and that's gone now.
It was sad mac and cheese anyway.
Oh, well, this is decent.
The corn on the cob. You can get corn on the cob as a snack.
Yep. Oh, they have foot-long hot dogs as a
Yeah, that
foot-long hot dogs as a meal.
I will say the two things on the food front that we enjoy. One of them is the chopsticks, and my daughter is a huge Panda Express, chopsticks, any kind of Chinese place fan. And so every Six Flags we go to that has chopsticks, we have to go to them and we compare them. The one in St. Louis is head and shoulders above the one at Great America.
That's
the quality,
good to hear.
The quality of food is better. The selection, you have more choices for your entrees.
Less upcharges or the same amount of upcharges?
The upcharges are there, but weirdly enough, if you get a single entree, they fill the plate. If you get a double entree, they fill the plate with two different things. So if you're okay with just getting a single entree, you're getting the same quantity of food that you get with the double without an upcharge.
Exactly.
It's weird. They just slap it on there. But they have things like the egg rolls, and there's some extra sides that you can get as a snack if you want to add that onto your meal. And like I said, the quality is just better. The selection is better. The other thing, which is non-existent during COVID, is their buffet.
That's the picnic one, right?
Yes, they do an excellent. I mean, they do a solid buffet at St. Louis most of the time. I don't see it coming back until after we're done with coronavirus precautions.
So for those who aren't familiar, if you've ever been in the Picnic Grove in Six Flags Great America, they do like a buffet with fried chicken and hot dogs and mac and cheese. And last time I was there, mastatoli. There's a lot of options, and it's off limits if you don't have if you're not part of a picnic or have a special pass. But in St. Louis, when it's open, is it weekends, Kyle?
We've had it open in the summer during the weekdays as well.
So St. Louis, everyone's welcome with their meal pass.
But hands down, the best time to hit that buffet, and sometimes it's a little bit of an upcharge, is during holidays. So Father's Day, Mother's Day, 4th of July, because So their normal buffet is just what you said. It's hot dogs, chicken tenders, potato salad, little things like a picnic. But when they have holidays there, they go all out. I went down there for Mother's Day last year, and they had a whole brunch section with like eggs, sausage, pancakes, waffles, a whole thing of that. And then on the other side, they had brisket. They had chicken and just like all kinds of stuff. But it was so cool to like get as much brisket as you want. I think I bankrupt them on the brisket, But it is.
Yeah.
And they had beans and just all stuff. And so there was so much food. And so I would recommend, if you're going to St. Louis on a holiday, look out for that
Not
picnic.
during COVID.
It's actually, yeah. But if you're going on a holiday, outside of COVID, where it is if you're at the main fountain at the front of the park, if you go to the left, okay, like you're going towards American Thunder, you're going to go around where First Cone is, and then you'll see it, and it says the picnic pavilion. It's right there. It's fantastic.
That gave me another segue. The layout is very different. To me, it felt like, so I'm used to Six Flags that is a circle with the little bump for Southwest Territories. I'm used to Great America. And it's interesting now, having been to a couple different parks, how they're all different. Like I've been to New England where it's a big T. But I felt like St. Louis was like a zigzag back and forth. And I didn't even get to American Thunder or the back of the park the first day. Like I felt I had seen everything, and there were so many other little nooks and crannies. It just keeps you just keep opening new parts of the park. It's very interesting how different things are close to each other, but you don't feel like they're close to each other.
Be advised, if you've not been there before, there are some hills.
They weren't bad.
No, they're not bad, but if you're used to Great America, flat.
We warmed up with doing the Cahokia Mountains. So we did that first to warm up. And then once we got to the park, we're like, oh, this is just a little bunny hill.
Not like Magic Mountain, but it is definitely also not flat like her. I know Gary asked if they still offer discounts on the upcharges. I don't know what your guys' experiences are. I know it used to be hit and miss. If you asked, sometimes you could get it. But it's been a long time since I've been able to get anybody to give a discount on the upcharges.
I don't think they
that's
can anymore.
Pretty much not a thing. Yeah.
I think it was programmed as not, when they programmed the sports bottles to finally not work as discounts, I think the upcharges went too.
Okay.
Yep. I will say that after this past weekend, I appreciate St. Louis's layout a lot more. Georgia, it's even worse than St. Louis in terms. You talk about nooks and crannies. It's almost 3 different theme parks in Georgia, because you have like this main area that you can walk in a circle, but then you have to go down to Gotham City. Gotham City's like in its own tucked away corner.
Oh, that's like New England.
And then if you want to go to the back of the park, which is where like Blue Hawk, and for those of you who've been down there, Blue Hawk and Superman, you have to go up a huge mountain, but to get back there, you have to like go through a kiddie land and across a bridge, and it's like you're on the yellow brick road, man. It's like you're trying to find Oz. And when we got there, the people in my group literally said, I feel like we're in a whole nother park right now. And so after the hills, the terrain, and just how weird the layout is there, I literally said to them, I said, I'll take St. Louis all day. I used to complain about the terrain of St. Louis. Never again will I complain about St. Louis, ever.
I agree. Georgia's a little different. I know we're here to talk about St. Louis, but Georgia's a little different. I don't think any of them hold a candle to Six Flags Over Texas in terms of poor design.
Oh yeah.
Six Flags Over Texas is just absolutely hideous. But yeah, I see what you're saying, Sarah. There are, there's kind of a circle in the design of St. Louis, but then there's a couple of kind of offshoot shortcut type of paths you can take. But if you inadvertently take one of those shortcut paths, then you end up missing a section of the outer rim without realizing that you missed it.
Like, we didn't realize that we had missed the whole back of the park, and we had missed American Thunder the first day. So the first day I was like, there are no hills. And then the second day we found the hill when we went back to the Sky Screamer. But it's also, it has, what I'm really surprised about, looking at where it is and how it really doesn't have a lot of competition where it is, why they don't put more money into it. There's so much land. It has the potential to be so beautiful and such a destination. It just doesn't make any sense, because what is it closest to when you're down there?
Well, they have, so there's nothing in like the St. Louis area. But
like if you're going out, like, so if I'm saying we're at Great America, we're 6 hours from Cedar Point. So that's kind of what's the next park over by St. Louis?
Silver Dollar City and Worlds of Fun. Right. And so Missouri, even though you don't think of those parks as being close to there, in the state of Missouri, you have 3 big parks, and you have a Cedar Fair chain, a Six Flags chain, and a Hershey chain. So, I love Six Flags St. Louis, but in terms of theming and stuff, that's Silver Dollar City. In terms of ride lineups, I'd even give that to Silver Dollar City. So, a lot of people, a lot of families and stuff, they go there and spend 2, 3, 4 days in Branson, and so St. Louis, you're there for a couple of hours. So I agree with you. I think that it's just so that you guys know. So one little cool tidbit about St. Louis, a couple of tidbits. One, it's the third and final built from scratch.
It's one of the OGs.
It is. It was over Texas, then over Georgia, then it used to be over Mid-America, which is St. Louis. So I think that it's sad when I see Six Flags over Texas and over Georgia receiving a lot of love in terms of their rides and in terms of their investments. To see St. Louis, one of the 3 OGs, kind of get left out of that, sad. But they do have a couple of real awesome from the roller coaster community, like the enthusiasts like me. They have one incredibly rare ride, and that's Excalibur. By the way, was Excalibur running?
It was running!
Yes! I've been waiting for years for this to come back. So that ride was built by a company called Vekoma. Only 3 of them were built in the entire world. And that ride specifically came from Six Flags Great Adventure. Great Adventure didn't want it, they sent it to us. So the fact that that's even there, it is such a rare and unique experience. It's kind of like at our park, we have the Wizard, which is one of the only Schwarzkopf jumbo jets that's still around, right? So from a historical point of view, they have some really neat stuff. They have that Excalibur ride is incredibly unique.
And for those who don't know, it's kind of like if you took Revolution and Orbit and they had a baby.
Yeah,
that would be Excalibur.
and I will say, anyone who I don't know if you guys have ridden it or not, it really does feel exactly like Orbit. All that happens is you get pushed to the back of your seat, and the bark is worse than the bite. It looks way worse than what it is, and when you actually get on it, you realize
pretty special too.
Yeah, you don't really feel anything, but super cool that they took the time. Because that's a hard ride to maintain, because as you can imagine, there's no parts, right? It's hard to find parts for it. So for them to take 2 whole seasons and invest in a full refurbishment, I believe they sent the gondolas overseas to get refurbished and to really put in the time. I love that St. Louis does that. I just think that they need a little bit more TLC, and they need a 5-letter word more than anything. Paint.
I noticed that.
Just paint it, make it look nice, plant some flowers.
The theming is gorgeous. Yeah. The theming reminded me even of some Disney elements. It just needs some paint.
What did you think of that waterfall? So if you're going up towards Mine Train, there's that whole stream, and the looks like wooden crates at the top of it. The water's coming in. How did you like that? I liked it. I thought that was an awesome feature, the water feature.
Yeah. I really think that there was a lot of thought put into the theming and layout, and it hasn't been destroyed like it has in other Six Flags parks that I've been to that are just asphalt. So I'd like to see that charm be brought back to life.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I do like some of the new stuff that they're doing. How was the entrance? How was the new entrance? I know, Kyle,
cool.
You've been there for a while.
I thought it was beautiful.
Talk about that entrance. How did that go?
I mean, again, with the change in the screening systems, it's hard to really compare how that impacted traffic flow. But when you get in there, there's the fountain. There's a fountain there now with the Six Flags sign. I mean, it was beautiful when you walked up to it, and I don't know. I wasn't sure what to expect since it was shut down all of last year. They had that whole ticket booth area shut down, and the customer service moved over to the side. But you walk up, and it's a good-looking centerpiece when you get in, and then once you get through the pass scanning, the traditional fountain that you're used to seeing there is still there, and so you get both of those kind of scenic picture moments, Kodak moment spots. I'm surprised they don't have someone out front taking pictures in front of the new sign and the new setup.
When I was there, they had a photo host the whole time.
Okay. We only had photo hosts inside by the fountain where they always used to be.
We saw them in both.
Well, that's good.
That's something we should mention too real quick. If you guys are going to St. Louis and you guys love to get a bunch of on-ride photos, there are only two rides in the entire park, and they're right by each other. It's the Log Flume and it's American Thunder. Those are the only two rides you're going to get on-rides on. So if you're going there and that's your thing, make sure that... I don't know if I'd buy an all-day photo pass, personally.
I mean, with Diamond Elite, when I tried to get the season one, it was $7.50.
Yeah, I say, to be fair, the photo pass, the all-season photo pass is like $15.
Yeah.
So if you're getting 50% off it, you're paying $8 something with tax. And
So you get...
Great, get it.
You also can alternatively, if you are a member and have your your free digital photos, I love to use them at other parks instead of our own, because obviously I can do a photo pass in the home park. So that's also an idea. If you have multiple people, we just kind of take turns whose photo gets used.
Here's one. Okay, so you guys, because I haven't been there yet, you were my eyes real quick. Tell me, is there any construction updates over by where Tidal Wave used to be? Is there anything happening over there? Do we see anything? Is it just the wall? Or what do we see? What's going on?
I did not go back behind Skyscraper.
I wouldn't know where that is.
Where Tidal Wave was to look at it. So I
Where was
an update.
Skyscreamer. Up by Skyscreamer?
Yeah, I didn't go around. We just cut across to the left of Skyscreamer to go up the hill towards Boomerang. We didn't cut back on the other side of Skyscreamer, and we didn't ride Skyscreamer.
What was supposed to be there?
Look over there.
So they used to have a tidal wave. I don't know what you guys called it at Great America.
Waterfalls. Yeah.
They had one of those, but it was like a real small version. And last season they removed it and put up like construction walls there. And so nobody really knew what was happening, or if they were getting new rides or anything, or anything like that. So I was just interested to know. I'm a ride junkie.
Yeah, I was told last season that the location for Catwoman's Whip, which was supposed to be their new ride for this year, was over by the Boss and Supergirl and the go-karts.
That I could see where that was supposed to go.
Right.
Behind
Yeah,
Supergirl.
they ripped up the go-kart track, right?
That was what I was told the plan was. I didn't see them actually rip. Every time I was there last year, the go-karts were operating. So
there were no go-karts.
Okay.
So I could see, and I could see an area that was cleared out behind Supergirl.
Well, I'd love it if they're doing that, they would fix the Boss line. because I think the coaster's like a mile long. I'm pretty sure the line uses more wood. I'm pretty sure the line itself is longer to get there than the ride is.
Oh, that's like Eagle.
I saw
Worse than Eagle.
Saw an article the other day about the 10 longest waits, 10 longest queues for a roller coaster or a theme park ride, and the Boss was on there, as was the Eagle. So
Okay.
and the Bat at Kings Island.
Oh man.
So, talking rides here, what's the ride lineup like in the park for anybody who's not been there?
I think they have really fun flats that we need to have.
Mhm.
And we were going to seal, so we decided as a family when we were there that we were going to go ahead and take Pandemonium and exchange it for V2 because we want to bring Pandemonium home. That was like the ride that we kept going back to. And Stephen would probably know what kind of ride that is. I can't describe it. It was like, is it a wild mouse or a mouse?
It's so they call it. It's just a Gerstlauer spinning coaster.
Okay.
But yes, very. See, Sarah, yes, it has a
cute, and it's not like Raging Cajun where it knocks you around. It's
right.
Good.
But it does have a section that's very wild mouse up at the top. After you drop, you come up, and then you do like a couple of switchbacks, and it's like a wild mouse section. So from the enthusiast point of view, St. Louis is not high on our list. From an enthusiast point of view, there's probably 3 coasters we go there for, right? And that would be the Boss, because if you're into big terrain wooden coasters that really does use the terrain to its advantage, it's the Boss. If you're looking for a solid wooden coaster, like a little twister coaster, you're going to go for American Thunder. A lot of people say that's the best in the park. And then, of course, Mr. Freeze is kind of their signature right now because Mr. Freeze, American Thunder, and the Batman clone are really the only smooth rides they have in the park, roller coaster wise. Everything else is pretty rough. And in terms of new investments, new coasters, their newest coaster they have is the Boomerang. I believe it got relocated there in 2012. I rode the Boomerang in its original home at Six Flags Six Flags Over Texas. It was called Flashback. They dismantled it there, sent it to St. Louis, and they just repainted it. So everyone in St. Louis is like, we got this new ride. It was 30 years old when they got it.
Yeah, we don't do those boomerangs at Six Flags parks anymore.
Yeah, I would agree with Stephen. And with what Sarah said, I think the flat ride lineup is very solid. They have a lot, and they're getting new flat rides. So Supergirl is a fun flat ride. Catwoman's Whip, the new one they're supposed to get, looks like it's going to be a solid flat ride.
Excalibur.
Solid ride. I mean, they have a good lineup of flat rides. Of course, they have their standard Justice League. The one there, in my opinion, works. The screens work better than any other Justice League ride I've been on across the chain. So we have a good, solid lineup of flat rides.
They have a Sky Screamer right up, on the top of the hill, which is using the height to the advantage.
As far as the coaster lineup goes, it's relatively weak compared to many of the other Six Flags properties.
If you're going down there from Six Flags Great America, it is interesting to ride their Batman because it's almost like a mirror image. So that part's kind of cool. You're like, oh, I just rode Batman the opposite way. That was cool. But that's pretty much what it is.
And Mr. Freeze is a great ride. I enjoyed Pandemonium. It's a fun ride. I think that a lot of what can be said about St. Louis is it is a fun park. I can't say it's a thrilling park. I can't say, it's an amazing park. I can say it's a fun park. It's one you should definitely go to if you have the opportunity. There's a lot there to sit and enjoy. But I don't think it's ever on anybody's list of what's the most amazing park you could go to.
I would agree with that.
I go
They
there
do so
for
many things
nostalgia.
Yeah, they do so many things well. When people ask me to compare Great America to St. Louis, my standard line is that other than the rides and the entertainment, St. Louis does everything else better. And the food is better, the parking is better, the lines are shorter, the crowd control is better. I think they do, in my experience, they do a great job keeping things clean. Other than the ride lineup and the overall quality level of the entertainers, because they don't have the actor pool to pull from that we do around Chicago. I think that they do just about everything else better. But if you're there for high thrills, it's not the first park you should choose.
I think it's definitely worth it.
Answering the comment. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I just think, like, if I live near, if I'm going geographically, I am geographically near Six Flags Great America. I think this is my first visit down there because I can't stand driving through Illinois. But it's worth it for a weekend a year to go enjoy it.
Yeah.
To answer the question real quick that has been up here about the water ride. So sadly, if you're going, they only have 2 water rides inside the dry park. Now, if you want to go in the water park, they just put in, I believe it's Tsunami Surge, something like that. Because Log Flume has 2 sides. You're right.
No,
I said it.
It's a really it's not a tall one.
There's Tsunami Surge, the Log Flume, and the Thunder Rapids.
Oh, yeah,
You're right. I'll say if you want to get the wettest, get on the Tsunami Soaker.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like Bunny Battle, where you're in little boats, so you're not in water. You're just kind of in little spinny things, but the water thing is the same, where you're just shooting at people and people outside are shooting at you.
But you can legitimately hit everybody every time you're spinning around. So my experience of Buccaneer Battle is it's hard to actually soak people. And yes, it's Tsunami Surge is our new water slide at Great America. Tsunami Soaker is the water ride at
their Log Flume is not that tall.
No.
It's kind of like the Bunny Hill version, and you don't get wet.
But that's a classic for that park. That ride, I believe, opened when the park opened. If not, it was within the first couple of years. It was one of the original Aero Log Flumes. I can't tell you. I have video. This is true for most Log Flumes, but at St. Louis, if you're riding with an adult, there's no height requirement whatsoever for the Log Flume. You can take an infant on there if you want. I don't know why you do it, but you could take an infant on the Log Flume. And I actually have videotapes from when we were kids where that happened. My cousin was not even 1 year old yet. We have video of him going down the Log Flume when my uncle holding him in his arms. And so just from a nostalgic point of view, I love that ride. Thunder River, you might get wet on it. I think you get more wet.
Really get wet on.
Yeah. So I would say if you want to get the wettest because it's hot out, get on Tsunami Soaker, because think of it as a very small, slow scrambler that you get the spray people. That's what it is. But if you're looking for the best thrilling, put that quotation marks, thrilling, it would be the Log Flume, because it's the biggest ride in the dry park that has a drop.
In our experience, Thunder River, there's 2 seats every time it gets soaked, and then everyone else stays relatively dry.
Yeah.
So if you're in those 2 seats that manage to stay basically going first the entire ride, you're going to get soaked, because every time you hit, the water comes up over and just drenches you. I don't know why. I don't know if you guys have heard anything. Every park we've been to since coronavirus that has a rapids has had the water cannons shut off. I don't know if that is a function of coronavirus somehow, but Thunder River at St. Louis, they have the ride-out operated water cannons. They hit a button and shoots, just like the ones at Great America. They hit a button and they can time the shot to hit people. The rapids that we went on at the other parks as well, none of the ride-operated water cannons I mean, I understand the public operated ones are shut down because of coronavirus, but the ride app operated ones weren't running on any of the rapids we've been on this year.
Honestly, that might be, I know it's getting petty now, but it might be to save cost, just water consumption, just shooting water and stuff. They might have looked at it and said, yeah, okay, this is a really small way to cut money, right? But it's a way to cut some money down. It might just be that.
Might be to
Or
save a
they're
person.
worried if the water splashes me and it splashes the person.
Right.
You know what I mean? If it hits me and then hits another person, maybe they're worried about that too. But if that's the case, why are they worried about the rapid ride itself? If the wave hits me and hits somebody else, it'd be the same thing.
But they do have the ride app that would normally be firing them is still sitting in that position, watching you go by. They're just not firing the cannons.
That's strange.
Right. Well, they have. I know that on some of those rapids, they have to be stationed there.
Right.
They just, because sometimes you'll have problems. It doesn't happen often. Every now and then you'll have a bottleneck that happens, and so you literally will just be sitting there with 5 or 6 other rafts not moving. So they do have to put some people on certain rapid rides to watch, so that they can, if something happens, they can get the people off or get the boats moving again, down the stream. So I know that they have to be positioned there. Same, very similar on the mine train. It's got 3 lifts, and they have an operator on the first lift usually, watching, because from that lift you can see the rest of the layout, and so they can see people that have phones or anything. But really, since the kiddie ride, they're watching for kids. They're watching to make sure that the kids are safe and okay, because that bar only has one position, and so kids can stand up, and kids could, if a kid wanted to, he could jump out of the ride. Don't do it, everyone, but it's true, you could. So they have an op out there just watching, just to make sure everybody's safe, no one's acting up, everything's okay out there.
All right. Why don't we segue over to, and I'm going to just throw this comment up here because it's a perfect segue. How are the shows?
Not as good as Great America.
I would say, I made that comment earlier when I was comparing the parks, that the entertainment is not one of the things that St. Louis does better. The shows are entertaining. I don't know. I'm entertained when I watch them, but the quality of the individual performers overall is not, in my opinion, up to par with the quality of the performers at Great America.
Yeah, even Frontier City, I think, has some better performers, with their gun shows and stuff like that. But you have to keep in mind, Missouri, St. Louis, but Missouri in particular is not really big on liberal arts. So I think it's just the talent pool.
I do suspect, though, that they are pulling some of the talent from the same universities that our park is, that happen to be located more in central Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't find it bad. I thought that they did a great job. I do worry about them without masks on, but that's just me. But it wasn't what I was used to, but I think, kind of putting it on par with some of the shows that we get in the spring and early summer, when they're, putting together those limited engagement shows outside before they get back into the Grand Music Hall. That's what you can expect right now in St. Louis. They were running one kind of 60s-ish show, and then they were running like a cowboy show, and they were alternating which one they were in.
I will also say, and for anybody visiting, if you haven't visited, or you might want to check the day you're going, what shows are running. And the reason I say that is because St. Louis, it is a little bit more religious than some parks are. And I'm specifically thinking of, in the summertime, they have their outdoor concerts, and there's a whole thing called Praise Fest, and they bring in a whole bunch of Christian bands. It doesn't offend me, but if that's not your cup of tea, or that, that's not what you want to be around, you might just want to check, because those, especially in the summer, that amphitheater's rocking that music out, and you can hear it for all over the park. And then even during the holiday in the park season, Their big main show in the Imperial Theater is called the Majesty of Christmas, and it's the birth of Christ. There's no two ways about it. There's angels. They bring in, it's 3 wise men. They bring in actual llamas and stuff and animals. So again, hey, llama. Oh my gosh. I'm going to tell them they need to not rent the real llama, and they need to just have you come out with the llama hat. You need to be the llama, man.
They do. I did notice that the very large amphitheater in the back, or up at the top. I was really shocked how big that was.
Yeah, and with the coolest thing, again, flashback to when I was a kid and growing up, and that was my home park. Back in the early '90s, I gotta find this video. They did. They used to do much bigger shows and live shows there. They used to do like themed live shows there, kind of like what you would see at our Grand Music Hall, but they would do it outdoors in the amphitheater. And one year, they had the tour of the live Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles come in and did a whole. They did like a little short, like 30-minute show throughout the day, but then at night, the park would close. And they did this whole show at night. It was like an hour long. And they were throwing rubber pizzas out in the crowd, the Ninja Turtles, and they were singing, and Shredder was there, and they had Splinter, and it was real. And you got to think, I'm probably 6-ish, 5-ish. It wasn't actors, man. It was the Ninja Turtles were at Six Flags, man. Like, it was the big, it blew my mind. My reality melted. And so they used to do that. I believe the theater, I believe it's still called the Old Glory Amphitheater is what it used to be called anyways. But they've also had big acts come in there. Like, if you're into pop and rap, I know Flo Rida has been there. I know, like, Jesse McCartney has been there. I know LMFAO has been there. I know that back in the day, my grandfather has pictures, because his honeymoon was the same year that the park opened. Okay, his honeymoon was to Six Flags St. Louis. There's a character that he has with it signed and dated, and it's the year the park opened. That's because that was his honeymoon, which was so cool. But he's got from like the '80s. He has pictures of like Garth Brooks before Garth Brooks had his first album. Like before he was big, Garth Brooks played there. Randy Travis played there. So, like, really big acts, they get in there. And that's something I wish our park would do. I wish our park would have more celebrity concerts and stuff like that.
We used to.
They're
Back
used
when
to.
I was in middle school, you could get an upgrade, a VIP upgrade to your season pass. And they had concerts, and they made a whole theater where Hurricane Harbor is now. They built a whole outdoor theater that year for whatever the theme was, and these acts went around different Six Flags. And let's see, it was Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch was there.
Yeah!
And Crisscross. And so the key was, if you were, my parents did not shell out the extra $15 or whatever, so you would get the season pass around with a lanyard, so you'd look like you had a backstage pass. Mine didn't do that, so we would go up in Sky World and get a little view of the concert.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, talking show-wise, and even, just bringing it back to, our park, I think if we open, it's going to be outdoors. It's shows, I think, are only going to be performed outdoors.
They all are.
No Grand Music Hall.
And I don't think they're going to do the shows like, how we do the Party Girl? I don't think they're going to do shows like that that's that close to guests. I think they're going to be up on the stage, like right there in Hometown Junction where they do the Uprising.
Yeah, because they need more than 6 feet.
That's the stage that they're going to do stuff like that because... we do still have is it the Wilderness Theater?
Yeah, it's still there. It is still there.
We could technically still use the Wilderness Theater.
We have the Wilderness Theater. There's a stage over in Mardi Gras. They can build a stage. There's a stage at Mooseburger. There are places.
Yeah, St. Louis was doing all of their shows on the steps of the Palace Theater. So
I would
of their
imagine
shows
all
were
of
outdoors.
ours. Yeah. I'd imagine all of ours are going to be up in the train station in hometown.
I didn't see we did not find a running show when we were in Georgia. I've heard they've done some shows. They are doing shows there, but those are outdoor also. Frontier City did still have a show inside in their theater. The seating was very interesting. It was groups of 4 seats, all spread very far apart. So you could sit up to a group of 4 together. But they had a magic show that was indoors in their kind of saloon type theater area. But yeah, the other
breaking news.
Oh, what is the breaking news?
Breaking news. Go ahead, sir.
Breaking news. I'm just looking at the Junkies.
You're hearing it exclusively right now, live.
This is from Bradley. Six Flags, Bradley Swenson. Six Flags Hurricane Harbor Rockford now has cabana rentals available beginning July 20th. That might possibly signal an opening day.
Hey!
You guys heard that here
Thank you,
first.
Bradley.
So
that kind of is in line with what I had heard too.
If you're watching this on my personal page right now, or you're watching this at Throw Max, that's why you need to join the Junkie group, okay? Breaking news. You guys want to hear stuff? Get over to the Junkie page.
yeah, just so you know, we kind of had insight on the water park. What now, Sarah? Probably like 2 weeks ago, if not longer, that there's going to be an announcement coming.
We've known, we know some stuff, and we have some sources. We don't ever say till we've suspected the date of July 20th, but we don't ever say till we know, and we still won't say that we know yet, but now it's looking like that could be around the time we might start looking for an announcement soon.
All right, well, kind of to wrap this up on St. Louis, I was thinking, if somebody's visiting the park for the first time, what's that one piece of advice you would offer somebody who says, hey, I'm thinking about going to St. Louis, why should I go?
So, for me, there's two pieces of advice. First advice is, you go there because when you go to a place like Great America, sometimes you really are hard pressed to do everything in a day, right? So you're just, I got to go to this ride, to this show, to this. I have to keep a real fast pace to get through the park and do everything I want to do. St. Louis isn't like that. It's more laid back. You can enjoy your family. You can make memories. There's more rides to do with your families. If you bring, your mom or dad and they don't do these big thrill rides, that's okay. There's a lot of stuff at St. Louis to do that you all can do together. They have the antique cars. They've got the mine train. They've got things that you can do. I think more so than what Great America has personally. And my advice is 2 things. Stretch, because there's a hill or 2, and stay hydrated, because that park specifically, it's not so much the heat that gets you, it's the humidity. And it gets real nasty there, especially right after rain. It'll rain for an hour, and then the rest of the day that rain's evaporating, and it is so muggy and so humid. The air's so thick. So definitely make sure that you stay hydrated, make sure that you stretch, and if you can get in for some AC, just to eat or something, make sure that you guys are taking care of yourself out there with that.
I would have to agree to take your time. I know when people are visiting Six Flags Great America the first time, or even when they're going for a day, there are so many coasters, and there's so much of a rush to try to get everything in, and you're going to have plenty of time to get everything in St. Louis, so you really can take your time. You can ride again on a ride, and really just, I would have to agree, everything. If you put a pace on it, you'll be done with the park in a couple hours, and you won't enjoy the atmosphere. And it does kind of feel like you're in Florida.
I've got to agree with the other 2. I mean, if we're talking about why should I go, it is genuinely a fun park. I mean, I have never gone to St. Louis and not had a good time. I've never taken somebody with us that didn't have a good time. You can take it easy, you can relax, you can be laid back, and you can still just get around, do everything, and have fun. As far as one thing I think people should be aware of, especially if you're used to Great America, if they are enforcing it as they often do, there are no cubbies or boxes or anything like that for most of the rides. You are expected to rent a locker. They have the all-day lockers, so you can transfer them, and there are lockers outside of all of the major rides that you can transfer your belongings to and from. But they have people standing at the entrance to the queues telling you, oh, you can't take that bag up with you. Oh, you can't take that up there with you. All they have is a spot for your drink cups. You can take your drink cups up, but other things like camera bags, etc., they are supposed to be making you put them into lockers instead of taking them up to the ride platform with you. So just be prepared for that if you're used to Great America, where you can carry everything up to every ride and just leave it on the station.
Good point.
Since you said drink cups here, I just want to ask, because I know all three of you have been at the parks, has any of you bought that new or upgraded to that refillable thermal Yeti type cup?
They had it at First Cone. I saw it at First Cone. I did not upgrade. It looks smaller than I was expecting. And at this point, since I'm just getting a cup with ice in it to carry around, I didn't really see the need this year.
Yeah,
but I think I will.
I don't have issues with the member cups. I know there are people who don't like them or have problems with the care and maintenance of them. I don't have any issues with them. I'm perfectly happy with it. I don't see the need to get a sturdier, more insulated, easier to wash, dishwasherable cup. That doesn't bother me, so I did not grab one while we were there.
See, I'm worried that it'll make me even more mad when somebody loses it.
I didn't see them. We were looking for them when we were at Georgia. Didn't see any anywhere. We couldn't find them. I'm a camel when I'm at parks, though. I drink and drink and drink and drink and drink. And even my member cup isn't big enough because I literally have to fill that thing up a dozen times in a day because I really believe in staying hydrated. So, going back to what Kyle just said, or Sarah said, that they're really small, that's a deal breaker for me because I'd have to fill that thing up 30 times in a day. So I'll keep my member cup and my little insulator.
I think it will be interesting because it is a hot-cold insulator cup to see if they honor it for refills for hot chocolate during the holiday in the park season, or if they differentiate between that and the traditional hot chocolate refill cup, because obviously you can't put hot chocolate in the typical member cups. So it'll be interesting to see if they somehow include that upgradable cup as part of the holiday in the park promotion.
Yeah, just never put those, the existing member cups, never put those in the dishwasher.
Oh, it's not the dishwasher. Never leave them in heat, period.
Don't leave them in your car.
When I went to Texas, we had like 6 of them, right? And we didn't need 6 of them, but we had some extras, and we left them in the back window of the car. Oh no, ruined, real easy. By the time we came out, they were all disfigured and twisted and melted.
All right, Steven, why don't you go ahead and give yourself a quick plug over there at ThrillMax. Tell the junkies about you.
Yeah, guys, if you guys want to know more about rides, you want to know more about different theme parks, not just Great America, you want to know about Cedar Fair parks, you want to know about Disney, you want to know about all of them, come join ThrillMax. We've got people from all over the world and people from like England and the UK. It's the same thing. I said England and the UK. They're the same place. But the UK and people from all over Europe and stuff, and they're always posting different things. So if you guys want to learn more about rides and stuff, come on over. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, definitely go check those guys out. Steven always comes up with some great videos whenever he's at a park. You guarantee there's going to be at least a walk around video from.
Oh, Bob froze.
Yes.
But I think what he was saying was something. ThrillMax videos are amazing.
That was it. Yes, that was it. Yes.
Joking.
Yeah, definitely go check those out. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. I want to thank you, Steven, Sarah, Kyle, for joining us. It's been fun. We'll definitely leave in the comments some other ideas for us to host these types of shows. We're always down for, getting a bunch of people together and just talking. So if there's something you want us to talk about, definitely leave in the comments. Even make a post on the Junkies page. Let us know. But until next time, always remember, seatbelts first, lap bar second. Have a Six Flags Day, people. Good night.